Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Friday Ramblings. I am your perpetual host, the Bardic one, and we're here with our second part on the various playable characters from other games that have appeared in Project Cross Zone. We're covering the sequel, Project Cross Zone 2 today. Now again, for those of you who missed the first part, the basic idea of this is because these are crossover games that also include a few original characters, we're going to skip over the original characters, focus on the ones that were borrowed from other franchises to basically give you a sense of how many characters that at least I as a gamer recognized, and thus how much that excitement of getting a chance to play with them in a novel setting was to my enjoyment of the game. Makes sense. That's the whole point of crossover games, is to be like, oh my god, yeah, woo! I love this character, and I get to see them interact with this character that they don't normally do because they're different franchises. Goodness. Get to play with them in a new genre. So, let's break it down. Get in, get out, have some fun, because it's Friday. First, from the Dot Hack series, specifically the original Dot Hack game and the subsequent Dot Hack /G.U. Kite and Haseo, whichever. Now, I knew of Kite and the Dot Hack series in general. Haseo, I had not really done much looking into that game yet, but the Dot Hack meta franchise was good times. From Darkstalkers, we have Dmitry Maximov and Morgan Onsland. Now, again, as we said in the first one, and you'll get a little bit redundant here because some characters return every game, some franchises are always represented. It's a thing. I knew of Darkstalkers. I enjoyed the characters as concepts. Was not a huge fan of them, so mid-tier. From Devil May Cry, Dante and Virgil. Much like Darkstalkers, I was familiar with Devil May Cry and the lore of it, but had not played a lot of the games myself. So, mid-tier excitement. Dante was always fun in these games. His character plays well off others. From Fire Emblem Awakening, Chrom and Lucina. Now we are talking. Fire Emblem Awakening is my personal favorite game in the Fire Emblem series, as it is for most people, especially here in the West, where we didn't get all the Fire Emblem games, but still good times. They were a great pair, had wonderful dialogue with each other, and getting the chance to play them in a setting where they are way outside their comfort zone was good times. From God Eater 2, Ciel Alonso and Nana Kuzuki. Was not familiar with the God Eater 2 cast at this point. Was only vaguely familiar with the original God Eater, so not a lot of hype. They did warm up on me, especially the running joke of the udon sandwich. Those who know, know. Mega Man X brings us X and Zero. Now, this are characters I am familiar with, and these are characters I was happy to see. Gotta love X and Zero, two characters that carried a long series of games between the X series and the Zero series. Big time fan favorites. Those are characters that can get you to play a game. Resident Evil, specifically their Revelations era appearance. Icons Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. I do enjoy Resident Evil, and having the later era representation of Chris and Jill after they had already seen some stuff a few times over, they made for strong supporting characters, and hey, who doesn't want a chance to play around with some more Resident Evil? It's good times. From Resonance of Fate, Zephyr and Vacheron return. Again, not super familiar with Resonance of Fate originally, but did make it into this game. As I said, they were in the previous one, so I was a little bit intrigued to see them back. From Sakura Wars, we get the same 4 as before. This would be Ichiro Gami, Erika Fontaine, Sakura Senguji, or Sakura, and Gemini Sunrise, except their pairings have swapped up. Now it's Ichiro and Erika teaming up, and Sakura and Gemini teaming up. Still fun to see them. Good steampunk fun. But the new pairs unlock a whole new set of dialogue intrigue. Woo! Speaking of icons and characters you are always happy to see, Street Fighter brings us the pair of Ryu and Ken. And Chun-Li teams up with her buddy Ling Xiaoyu from Tekken. Tekken also brings us Jin Kazama and Kazuya Mishima. All 6 characters are big hype intrigue characters for me in any format. Although, as far as Street Fighter goes, I am still partial to Cammy White and Dulcine. Maybe one day they'll get some love in some crossover games. From Strider, we get the namesake Strider Hiryu and Hatsuma from Shinobi as a team. These are characters that, I knew of Strider, had not played the game extensively. Shinobi, I had played a little bit years ago, so I was intrigued because they were characters I knew by major reference, but did not know nearly as well as, say, some of the Street Fighter and Mega Man characters. From Tales of Vesperia, Yuri Lowell and Flynn Sifu. Flynn return again. Yep. Now I was not familiar with Tales before I played this game. I have become more familiar with it now, but they were characters that had appeared in the previous Tales, or in the previous project Zone, so I was happy to see them return. Mid-range hype. Akira and Kagimaru from Virtua Fighter. I remembered Akira, good times. Kagimaru, not as much. But Virtua Fighter representation is always good. Our old friend Cosmos now teams up with Fiora to represent Xenosaga and Xenoblade Chronicles. Not characters I really was excited about when I first got the game. They did not draw me in, as I'm not a big Xeno series fan. And that's not slighting the games, I just haven't played the majority of them. Still, they were fun characters. From the Yakuza series, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima. Now these were Dark Horse characters. Again, I only knew the very basics of the Yakuza series. Didn't know much about the characters as specific personalities, but they won me over very quickly. It does intrigue me, and I can see why these base characters have led to the Yakuza series having ongoing games in its franchise. Your solo units that can be assigned to assist anybody here and there. Ace Attorney sees the 2 characters of Phoenix Wright and Maya Fey joined together, but still functioning as a solo unit. Ace Attorney's good fun, not one of my super favorite franchises, but I was happy to see it represented, and these distinctly non-combatant characters being given a bit of extra power and juice to them to make them work in a combat setting. From the Adventures of Valkyrie, Valkyrie returns. Not familiar with her games, but she was a fun character to see return from the original. Captain Commando from Captain Commando. A fun classic Capcom arcade game. Seeing the Captain is always a good time. Darkstalkers brings us Felicia. Hey, who doesn't love a cat girl? especially one raised by nuns to be nice and proper lady. God Eater brings us back Alyssa, Alinchina, Amelia. Say that 5 times fast. A fun character. Interesting to see her interact with people from another game and another series as opposed to her usual running buddies in her own squad. This is a good way to do things. Also, they used a older model of her from later in the God Eater series. So we did get to see a bit of fun times with that. Similar to Chris and Jill being from the Revelations era of Resident Evil instead of some of the earlier games in it. Speaking of Resident Evil, from 6, Leon S. Kennedy shows up. Hey, gotta love Leon. We know Ada Wong does. From Nightshade, a Shinobi spin-off game, Hibana. Knew nothing of it, but it happens. Resonance of Fate also brings us the missing part of the trio, Leanne. She returns again to have some fun, and we are happy to see her. From the infamous, especially on certain corners of the internet, Sega Saturn advertisements, mascot Sagata Sanshiro. I had heard of the character's existence, was not familiar with the commercials at this point. However, the character is so tongue-in-cheek and crazy, he immediately became a fun time. Shenmue's star Ryu Hazuki shows up, and we did enjoy seeing him join the party. Soul Calibur 4 brought us Natsu. Or excuse me, Soul Calibur 5 brought us Natsu. Never played 5, not real familiar with Natsu, only played a couple Soul Calibur games. Still, fighting game characters tend to be easily adaptable to any genre. Space Channel 5's Ulala is dancing her way around the dimensions once again. A good character that has permeated video game pop culture for a generation. Little excitement. Didn't know anything about Star Gladiator or its representative, June Lynn Milliam, but we enjoyed her presence once it showed up. Still, couldn't be too hype about June because I didn't know her. From the later Street Fighter games, Ingrid shows up. Did not know from Ingrid specifically, but any Street Fighter represent, especially somebody that likes to backtalk and Bison, we can have fun with that. We're getting in the classics here as Streets of Rage brings us Axel Stone. This is one I was hyped to see. Streets of Rage is a classic beat-em-up. Always deserves some recognition, and Axel Stone is leading the charge. That's somebody you want to play a game with, even if it's not a Streets of Rage game. Tales of Vesperia also brings us the infamous Princess Estelis. We've talked about Vesperia as well. Tekken brought in Heihachi to give us all 3 generations of the Mishima clan that are mainstays. Heihachi is fun, no matter where you put him. Virtual Fighter also threw in Pai Chan. And Summon Night 3 gave us Addie. Knew nothing about Summon Night 3 or Addie, so can't say she really gave us a lot of hype. Now, outside of your original characters, that is your protagonists. Good times, good times. So let's wrap it up. Who was I most excited to see in the games and play as in a new setting? Well, X and Zero, definitely. All 3 of your Street Fighters and all 3 of your Tekken players. Excuse me, 4 Tekken players represented. Oh yeah, and 4 with Street Fighter with Ingrid. So Ingrid's weird because she didn't... Ingrid's kind of bounced around a lot of Capcom fighting games. She's credited to Street Fighter here. But, you know, she's not an iconic classic character like Ken, Ryu, and Chun-Li. So I'm not really sure where to put her on that list. Still, the three that I am familiar with from classic Street Fighter games, and all four of your Tekken representatives, are fun times. Dante, at least from Devil May Cry, was fun. As I said, the four from Sakura Wars. Your buddies from all three of them from Resident Evil. These are fun characters. These alone would have sold the game. Having a lot of other these characters. Oh, Chrom and Lucina from Fire Emblem Awakening. Also big. Those characters alone, outside of the ones I mentioned that I really wasn't super familiar with their games, or only passively familiar with, just those characters alone in the game as the crossover stars would have sold me on it, especially having had experience with the original game. But having in these other characters that also helped me find some new games to play, because I have played some of these, like Tales of Vesperia, since coming across these characters in Project Cross Zone. That is a major benefit and bonus. We do look forward to that. Real quick, I'm just going to run through without much feedback, just to give you a sense of game balance, and since we have a few more minutes here, some of the antagonists. Sigma and Vile from Mega Man X, Juri Han and M. Bison from Street Fighter, BB Hood from Darkstalkers, the Nemesis T-Type from Resident Evil, Lord Raptor and Pyron from Darkstalkers, Dural from Virtua Fighter, Ayami from Sakura Wars, along with Ciso, Skeeth from the Dot Hack series, Zagi from Tales of Vesperia, Unknown from Tekken, Marduk from God Eater, Metalface from Xenoblade Chronicles. This is not the full list of guest stars, but these are the ones that will grab your attention and will show up regularly in the game. So this is fun times. I know the episode's a little short here, but that's okay, because you know what? We're getting into December. Everybody's busy, and this is our first video of the season, so it is also one that is going to kind of just be a bit of a warm-up. You know, I know everybody's still kind of recovering from Thanksgiving and the start of the shopping season. So I think everybody can understand if things get a little short on a couple of these ramblings. I hope you do stay tuned and check us out every week, because I do plan on doing everything I can to make you enjoy your Fridays, even if just for a few minutes. By all means, if you have access to Project Cross Zone 2, I recommend giving it a try. If you're familiar with any of the characters we mentioned and are a fan of them, you will love checking them out in this new chaotic setting that enjoys keeping the tongue firmly in cheek. And of course, check out the original Project Cross Zone and my video discussing who made the cut on that roster. Excellent games, good times. Still, we have a lot more topics to discuss. There are 5 Fridays in December, which means there are 5 ramblings. What's going to be our Christmas themed one? What's going to make the cut? You're going to have to watch to find out. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay watching, because I'll see you in 7.